So I'm so excited to be here. My name is Karin Eldor. I'm a senior contributor at Forbes, and I love to chat with the people in the industry, shaking things up and changing the game. So I'm so excited to be chatting with you, Anthony Saniger, CEO and founder of Standard Dose. And I love especially, you're one of the first, you're kind of a first mover of someone who took a D2C site and parlayed that into an IRL store experience. So love to chat with you about that. And well, first, tell us a bit about what Standard Dose is about, kind of your elevator pitch and your spiel.
Yeah, definitely. So I usually always start with my background. So I've spent the past 15 years in brand and marketing, building brands for different companies, mostly in fashion and beauty over the last about 8 years. During that time, working across many different industries, and then moved into starting an agency where I was predominantly working on D2C brands and helping launch them from scratch. And during that time, I was super stressed and anxious and already running a business. And I started kind of dabbling into CBD myself. I started trying different CBD products. This was probably 2017 at that point. Started trying a bunch of different CBD products. I was never a cannabis user. I never really smoked cannabis in college. I never really participated in anything with THC. Now, secretly, I'll do some THC gummies occasionally before bed. But
no shame. Shame.
But back then, I had never really tried or dabbled into cannabis. But at the time, I was super stressed. I was anxious. I was working 14, 15-hour days. And I was really just looking for something to help me with sleep. And I had been taking pharma. And in my early part of my career, I had worked on some pharma accounts. And so I knew kind of the devil behind that. And I really just wanted to move myself to plant-based products. And so started Standard Dose originally with only CBD products, but we've now broadened to all plant-based remedies that help with pain, sleep, anxiety, stress, gut health. And we've also moved into clean beauty. So our goal is really, how do we heal people through plants? And so it started by me just trying and benchmarking some of the products that were out there, and really looking, and everything had a cannabis leaf on it. Everything felt like you had to be hiking a mountain to enjoy it, or you had to be like a stoner culture. And all of those cultures were great, but they weren't me, right? So I started looking for those brands that I felt were really elevated, telling a really great story, that focused on education, that focused on explaining the products, explaining how to use them, and also had integrity around the products. And in 2018, that was really difficult. At the time, there was a lot of new brands coming into the market. There were really no standards. Everything was all over the place. And so really created Standard Dose as, first and foremost, an education platform, and then as well a place that curates the best brands that are out there, and really brings them into one place so the consumer can come, trust the products, and then explore and say, I'm looking for something for sleep, and go into our sleep category and really navigate that and find the products that's right for them. And we started online in 2019, January 2019. And then we quickly moved into retail because I felt the education piece was so important to our brand, that we were able to be first and foremost with the customer and talk to them about their journey and what they were looking for. And in a one-to-one experience, really help guide them and navigate them to products. So that's why we moved really quickly into retail. So we launched the store in May of last year. So we're going on about 1.5 years now. And yeah, that's been the journey to date.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that you so clearly identified that void in the industry. It's super cool. I forgot to mention that if anyone has questions, they can pop them into the chat box, and we'll get to them in the last few minutes of the talk. So I know one of your brand pillars is very much about curation, and I think you had told me that you went from very few, almost 50 SKUs to hundreds of SKUs.
Yeah.
So can you share a bit more about that strong vetting process? Why that strong vetting process is so important, and and how it translates into you being known for curation?
Totally, yeah. So Basically for us, when we first started, I benchmarked about 400 different products, tried them all myself, had like a little kind of mini focus group of my friends and was saying like, what do you think of this product? What do you think of that product? And getting feedback and doing it in a very small way. You know, it was me and a bunch of friends kind of trying the products. From there, it moved into what we do now, which is our vetting process. But in the beginning, there was not a lot of brands that could really meet the standards that we had set. So we set such really high standards. And at the time, there was only so many cannabis brands or CBD brands that were out there that we found it really difficult to find enough products that would give a wide variety that would fit all of these different needs that we have. So in the beginning, it was very limited. Today we have almost 800 different SKUs. We've expanded beyond just CBD, as I mentioned. We were doing things like ashwagandha and reishi, turmeric, going into adaptogenic mushrooms, looking at clean beauty and getting rid of all the toxic chemicals. The vetting process today is a little different than it was in the beginning, but today what we do is all the products that we carry, we send them through a focus group for testing so that we get feedback from the customers and we try to understand, do the products work? Are they effective? We try them internally. We also send them out, especially if they have CBD, we send them out to a third-party independent lab where we do our own lab analysis to understand the quantity of milligrams of CBD inside of the products. What they have on the packaging, is that actually what's inside the bottle? And so we try to do some extra vetting there just to, again, provide that level of certainty to the customer. In addition to that, we continuously look and revise our assortment based on feedback that we get from customers through reviews, people coming in, customer returns, anything that you look at that we get from customers, we put that back into our assortment, into the mix if people are asking for more of XYZ type of product. But in addition to that, we have a pretty robust list of ingredients that we don't allow in any products. And then that list of ingredients includes toxic chemicals, different foods, beauty products as well have their own list. And so brands can't have that. And we also don't allow any animal byproducts. So for example, we just brought on our first gummy product. We've been in business for a year and a half and we couldn't find a gummy product that was vegan, that had no sugar, or very little sugar. It's very hard to make without gelatin or without lots of sugar to keep them from sticking to one another. And so we only just recently found one from a brand called Helist that we brought in. And before that, we couldn't do it. So our vetting standards are pretty high. That takes a lot. That's pretty much a roundabout way of talking about the vetting process.
So of course, not functionality, but ingredients and the actual how they work is super important. Is there kind of like a metric for packaging and a certain aesthetic? I would imagine, because I feel that all the brands you carry do have a similar or have an elevated aesthetic, especially like you were saying, you know, the whole going from the more like granola look to the more elevated luxury look. Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely for us, it's really packaging is a consideration. It's not the only thing. There's some brands personally, I'm not obsessed with their packaging, but we carry them because I still think they're an amazing product. I still think they're doing amazing things. Occasionally we find brands that hit that sweet spot. So there are some of them where it's like, you've got amazing branding, amazing packaging, and you have an amazing product. And that's really the kind of trifecta that we look for. But from a packaging and brand perspective, one thing that happens quite often, and it's happened a lot kind of in the CBD space, is majority of the brands come to us and have puns or play on names that really help push a stigma culture or a culture that we try to move away from. We're here to educate. We're here to talk about the power of the plant. And we're not really here to kind of help reinforce any type of stigmas or slang or any type of words that have been used in the past. And that's really just to kind of elevate the experience around it, because we believe that if we start really talking about it in an elevated way. So a lot of times we see things, you know, like just weird words on it or talking about getting high or really leaning into kind of THC side. And those we try to really stay away from. And that's just because our purpose is really heal people through plants. So brands that are talking about like, you know, taking CBD, taking THC even for sleep,
great, we're all on board. But when it gets too playful, then we kind of stick away from that a little bit because we try to keep an elevated conversation.
Yes, that totally makes sense. So you kind of just touched a bit on the educational aspect of Standard Dose, which of course education is such an important part of I know it's one of your brand pillars as well. So how is the education translated on both the website and in the in-store experience?
Yeah, so it started on our website. We started a platform called The Drop, which is our editorial section. That's where we release regular content on it, not only just featuring brands, but really talking about the education piece, whether that's outlining all the different cannabinoids and talking about what their purpose is, or talking about different adaptogens that can be included in products. A lot of CBD brands now are including different types of things like ashwagandha or L-theanine or reishi, and starting to make mixtures that are not just CBD only. And so we're seeing that quite a bit. And so it's really important to us that we break it down. So online, it's through our education platform. We also have now, thanks to COVID, moved a lot of our events online. So we used to do pre-COVID events inside of our physical space. We would do not only daily meditations, but we also did things like our transformative healing workshops, where we would break down taboo topics. So we would talk about things like stress and lead through practice. And it was really like a group setting where people could come around and talk about these common things that we all deal with. And so we used to do those in person. Now those are online. So that's how we've done it in an online setting. In person, in the physical store, all of our store staff go through really robust training on education. They do continuing education courses where they learn about the products. We give them materials on every single SKU, and they have to be able to talk about those. I quiz them every time I'm down in the store just to ask them, like, what is the ingredients in this product? And they're really there to help guide the customer from an education standpoint. But then in addition to that, in the back of our store is where we did the meditations and we have the tea bars. That's where we would get a little bit more personal around experiences. So if you're super stressed, also practice breathing techniques and working on a meditation class can help reduce that, not just only a tincture that you can take. So that's how we've done it in the physical space. And the last point is we've also launched, since COVID, we've moved a lot of our team into live chat where every day, Monday through Friday, between like 9 and 5, and we're looking at expanding hours because now it's become very popular. We also help guide education through our live chat on our site as well.
I love the name The Drop as your educational platform, like as the content side. Yeah. So I know you mentioned as a result of COVID, of course, there's less workshops in the store because of the intimate nature of the store. So how else did you create the rich experience of The Drop, or so the educational side on the website? I know you had said you also kind of upped the frequency of content, right?
Yeah. So in store, I mean, I think when we were creating that, it was really about this journey of trying to create an environment that would do the same things. I remember when we were in the middle of the build out of the store, I was headed to the store and I was walking down in Flatiron. So it's like a really busy part of New York. I was walking down the street and there was like jackhammers, and it was like not a beautiful weather day. There was like jackhammers going on the street. There was noise everywhere and I couldn't even hear myself talk. And I was trying to talk on the phone with my mom. And I remember at that moment just being like, I need an oasis from everything else that's going on in the city, and I need a place where I can escape. And so that really translated into the design of the space. So there's a lot of elements inside of the physical retail that help with that same kind of grounding component. And those are things like we created a custom scent for the space, which has a lot of different notes that help with aromatherapy benefits for calming. We also made sure that things like corners were all rounded out, so that way people felt like relaxed anytime you go into a place and there's a lot of sharp corners. It creates chaos. We only have one of every product on the shelf. Everything else is under the cabinet, so you don't walk in and see box on box on box on box of product. So really trying to create a calming, inviting atmosphere as well to complement the products that we carry.
Yes, I was going to ask you that actually, that I feel, especially because of your design and branding background, that I know I had been to the store last time I was in New York, and I know all the elements of the store are super intentional. And how do you feel, like it's such a struggle today, like there's so many, people keep saying, or people keep wondering about the future of brick and mortar, or the importance of experiential and how it lives with like the online world. How do you feel the future of the IRL experience is going to look? I know it's so hard to say in this era of COVID, but I mean, I used to like to ask people that pre-COVID, but now in the present time, what are your thoughts on the future of the IRL component?
I think it's 100% important. I don't regret at all opening our store. Obviously, as a business, right now, the store is not pulling its weight, but it was never intended as a profit driver for us. The store was an experiential space for customers to connect, learn, and be educated. We saw our sales as a whole have almost tripled since COVID started, and that goes across all different channels. So if you look at our online and our offline prior to COVID, we're about 3 times X that total volume. And that's really because the in-store experience, those customers would go in there for a daily meditation, pick up a replenishment of their product, and those customers just moved online and started replenishing directly to their home like they had to do with everything else. But I believe it's going to come back really, really strong. And I think as soon as there's, antiviral and all these things have been in place, I do think that we will go right back to a physical experience. Me, myself, like I'm ready to get a massage. I'm ready to get a facial. My husband's already trying to sneak away to get massages now. And I'm like, no, just, let's wait a little bit longer. But I think that there's something really important about the physical human connection that we can create, especially in a space like our meditation room. And I think that we are going to be craving that more and more. In the beginning, even if you look at like our events that we did, we brought them online to do them via Zoom. Our attendance in the beginning was insane. The numbers of people that we were getting on a daily basis coming to meditation. That slowed down. The truth is we are all on Zoom. We're tired of Zoom. As humans, we have to wake up and we get on Zoom and we're still wearing our pajamas, and did we shower at the right time? And everything kind of spirals throughout your day. And I think that we as humans want to go back to that like human connection with other people, and meeting for our friends for coffee, and running for a spin class, and going to yoga before work. And I do think there's something really special about that. I do think it's really changed. I don't think people will replenish through the store as much as they used to, but I think people will go there to discover and create connection with other humans. And I think that should be the purpose of all retail. I don't think you should have retail to replenish, because truthfully, Amazon does a great job of that. So why wouldn't we just replenish from Amazon? And I'm not supporting Amazon as a business practice. I think they have some funny things, but I am saying that there are businesses out there that do a really great job of replenishment. And I think physical space should be for connection, meaning, purpose, education, and creating community. So that's what we'll continue to do in the store.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree that community is so important, especially today. Is that something, I know you mentioned, Zoom fatigue, and I totally agree. Do you leverage your Instagram as well for the community aspect and for the educational aspect?
Yeah, we're working on some great programming now, where we're actually starting to bring in a lot of healers and meditation instructors into our Instagram conversation. I think in the beginning, we really hyper-focused on our local presence. So we were hyper-focused on our in-person, real-life meditation instructor who's guiding you through the process. And through this, we've started exploring different things like movement and breath work exercises, either through Instagram Live or through IGTV. And we'll continue to kind of expand on that. I think that's something that will live evergreen, even post, the COVID phase, right? Yes,
no, definitely. What advice would you have? By the way, I want to welcome if anyone has any questions. It goes so fast, and we're wrapping up in a few minutes already. But what advice would you have for, for founders of CBD brands, like looking to get into, let's say, the more elevated, looking to get into a standard dose kind of retailer? Like, what advice do you have in general?
Yeah, I mean, definitely take a look at the products that are out there. And, I think the amount of tinctures that come across my desk that are the same tincture and sometimes from the same farm and the same supplier, and see the COAs, and then we are like, wow, this is from the exact same supplier. There's nothing really special about this. It's a different color than the other tincture that we saw. And that's about it. So I would say really focus on formulation. CBD is a really powerful ingredient, but it's an ingredient. So don't make your whole brand about CBD. And in my opinion, I don't think it has to be anymore. I think in the beginning, that was a great story to tell. I think now it's really important to continue to develop a bigger story. Use CBD as an ingredient to be really powerful. Use it in formulations where it makes sense. You don't have to put it in everything. It's many times I've seen it in kind of weird applications, and I'm just like, but wait, I know the science behind CBD, what's out there. I don't really understand how CBD is going to be beneficial in this form. Why are you putting it there? So don't just throw it in there to do that. Ensure there's efficacy of the product. Ensure that the quality is there. You've spent time on formulation to create something really unique and beautiful for customers, and do it as an ingredient. I think if we as an industry in the CBD space continue to just put out the same stuff over and over again, it dilutes the story of how powerful it is. I think if we can talk about how we can apply it to the right products, we'll have a much better industry. And I think as an industry as a whole, we'll be able to explain that to customers a lot better and not compete on, the brand that's out there saying that CBD is basically going to cure cancer on one side, and then someone else saying that it's going to help you with stress. There's a lot of confusion that's created sometimes by a lot of founders that are out there. So really doing your research, ensuring there's efficacy in product, and remembering it's just one really powerful ingredient, beautiful brand that tells a really beautiful story, and have some SKUs with CBD and have some SKUs with ashwagandha, and look at some different mushrooms that you can incorporate in, and get really creative with the formulation and something really unique, and not kind of something that's already been done, 1,000 times at this point.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you say it's more about a story too, because that's what resonates with customers. Like, I think that's also what, like, efficacy is so important, but the story is what people remember the most, so much, I find. You have so many fans, by the way. There's so many people saying they love Standard Dose.
I'm noticing a few of them are brand founders as well, like Casey. She's amazing. I know she's speaking as well, and her products are really incredible.
Oh yeah, I use it. I use St. Jane. Yeah. I'm a big fan. What are, you mentioned connection and also about education. I know you focus a lot on gut health. Can you speak a bit about the intimacy? I know you expanded also into like intimacy products and that sector. Can you talk a bit about that as well?
Yeah, so we recently expanded into that category. It wasn't a category that we brought on board. Oh, and I also see Taylor from Juna as well, so good shout out to her as well. But yeah, so basically we expanded into the sexual wellness category by demand of our customers really in the beginning. I'm always very slow to enter a category. So when I see that there's a lot of brands popping up that maybe have a new category within CBD, a new mini category, if you will, I'm a little bit slower to jump into them because I want to understand it fully. So, when we're vetting these products and these SKUs, we want to take our time and really understand how they work, the efficacy around them, before we just launch into the category. I think sexual wellness is so crucial and so important to a lot of different factors. We were talking about it in our transformative healing workshops. And that's really when I was like, all right, we need to expand into this category and look at it, and not just in CBD, but across the board. We started with, in our transformative healing workshop, talking about intimacy as a whole and the intimate connections. And that was one of the first workshops we did. And I sat in the workshop, and what we did was basically pair people up into couples, and we talk about different educational components, like how when you stare someone into the eye, you release oxytocin, which is the same chemical that's released when a mother's breastfeeding. And that creates an intimate connection. When you first start dating someone, you look at them in the eye 70% of the time, and it goes down to about 25 to 30% after dating them for a long time or being married. And so that's when I really realized that the sexual wellness component is such a crucial part to your overall well-being and overall wellness, that we had to start telling that story and go into that space. But I wanted to do it in a very slow, methodical, and calculated way, and not just rush into, even in gut health, like we don't currently carry CBD products that, because I don't know fully the benefit from a gut perspective. So we stayed away from that. I do know of things like castor root, because it's been used in Chinese herbs for thousands of years. I know the benefit of castor root for gut health issues. So I can talk about it from an Ayurveda or a Chinese herbs side. I can't yet from a CBD. And so until then, we won't bring on CBD products in the gut health category. So we're very calculated on the categories until we really feel confident that we're telling a story to our customers that can be trusted.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd heard you say just that, like, your raison d'etre of the store is that trust, and like, you know, and not like pushing big pharma onto people, but like, you know, being able to answer the questions of the very curious customer who has all these questions and wants to interact. So anyway, I think it's great. I like to always kind of end on like notes of optimism, just because I feel like it's a lot of, I don't know, just headlines are very doom and gloom. And I feel like, you know, I love to spread positivity. So, I mean, I don't know, what are you feeling that you're looking forward to in general as a brand, or in the CBD industry in general?
Yeah, CBD industry, I definitely think really looking at the efficacy around it. And I think there's a lot more science coming out. I think there's also a lot of clarity for a lot of the brands that entered the space at the same time we did, or entered the space earlier than that. We've all gone through those headaches of payment processing and banking and any type of traditional thing that you would do with a traditional business. Every founder has experienced in the CBD space at one point or in one degree or another. So I'm very optimistic that I feel that that's getting easier and easier every month that goes by. You know, January of last year, there was no payment processors that would really take you. Square came on as an early adopter in May of last year, and then that's slowly opening up more and more. So I'm very optimistic that those hurdles will really help. As those are being solved, I think that'll really help a lot of brands coming over. And I also think that the other thing that I'm really optimistic about is some really exciting news that we're doing some stuff October 1st. So stay tuned for that. So we've got some really big expansion plans and some really big priorities happening October 1st. So more to come on that, but there's some just really exciting things ahead. And I think some of the challenges are finally getting out of a lot of brands' way. So we'll all be able to kind of continue to grow and facilitate great conversation together.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I'm so excited to hear your updates on October 1st.
Definitely.
So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. There's a note that everyone should head over to the main stage for closing remarks. So in 2 minutes, and for the LMCC networking party. So it was such a pleasure, Anthony. And next time we'll be sharing tea or the drink recess at your store location.
Perfect. I can't wait. Thanks, Karin.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.